from the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight with Ryan Edwards and Benjamin Allbright.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight. We are 1 week away from the start of the NFL Draft. Now, the Broncos, like right now, do not own a first-round pick, but could they have a first-round pick? Could they draft a player on day one of the NFL Draft? That is a topic we're going to discuss tonight, Benjamin, as you glare at me with those steely blues. Listen, Nick Kosmider with The Athletic did a great job kind of breaking all this down. And by the way, George Payton has been a part of Vikings teams that have moved from the second round up into the first round. You remember the Teddy Bridgewater acquisition being one of the primary ones there. So it's not without merit or without exception, but it is a giant cost. And that's really what it kind of comes down to. So first of all, on the premise of the conversation, and this is what I love to do on the Broncos Country Tonight radio show, on the premise of the conversation, what do you think about it? Should the Broncos be in contention? George Payton said they might, because he's going to say that. Should they be in contention to trade up in the first round?
No.
And that's why they call him the best color man in the business.
I was pulling my best Steve Atwater right there. I was doing Steve Atwater doing Robin Gibb from the Saturday Night Live Barry Gibb talk shows. No, they don't.
Some people get that reference.
Yeah, like two people. It's like when I made that Ryman hypothesis reference the other day.
Yeah, nobody got that.
Nobody got that. I think that... No, I don't think that they should. I think the Broncos have enough holes on the roster, and they still have to churn the bottom of that roster with some depth. They need to fill some things in this draft, and I just don't think that they should. I don't think they will either, but I don't think they should package what it would take to move from 64, which, by the way, is the end of the second round. It's basically a third rounder at that point, to try to get in the first round. The point that you cash your entire draft to do that. And is there a player that you see that's going to be there in, say, the mid-20s, because that's about realistically the only spot they can get to, at 24-ish, that is worth cashing your entire draft for?
That's the question. And
is there a player in this draft anyway that's worth cashing your entire draft for?
I think it's one of those, like, as you see a guy slipping, you start making calls, you're hoping to end up closer to that 31-32 spot rather than going to 24, because 24 is going to cost you more.
Right, but on the basis of my question,
yes.
Is there any player in this draft worth cashing your entire draft for? Is there? Because I don't see one.
Well, no, that's a fantastic question, because that's the question that they'd have to say. We have a quote-unquote top 10 grade, or we have an elite, because, again, everybody stacks their board different.
Would you trade every pick the Broncos have for Kyle Hamilton?
No, I would not.
Okay.
Not for Kyle Hamilton.
And I think he's the most talented player in this draft. Even though he's a safety, I still think
he's pretty close to that. Yeah, and
you don't even like Sauce Gardner. You called him a bum who should be locked in a closet, never allowed to touch a football again. It's a direct quote.
Did not happen at all. But you'd have to have a conversation on what it is that you're trading up for. I think the argument for it is you believe yourself to be in a very specific window right now. And what it is about targeting specific players that help you get to the finish line, which is a championship, rather than we need to be churning the depth of the roster. Because you say they're big holes. I don't think there actually are that big holes. I think there are holes behind the starters that we could get into, where you're talking about, okay, well, if this guy goes down, this guy goes down, well, you don't have a lot of depth there. That's the holes I see. I don't see starters holes right now.
Those are big holes for me, because if you don't have that, in place, if one of those starters goes down, then what do you have?
Yeah.
Right now, we're one lap around the pool slip by Albert O from starting tight end Eric Tomlinson.
Very true.
I'm just saying.
But you can still drop. See, even if you did, like the computation of this looks like your second, probably your top third, maybe you could do the second, third, and then maybe a fourth. It'd be that in some version of that would put you in range. Okay, put you in range doesn't mean that a team says yes, but it puts you in range. So probably 3 picks would have to be that case. And of course, you could always consider doing a future pick, but that's maybe a different conversation. The point being is, yeah, you're on that, but you can also draft some of those players later. This is considered one of the deepest drafts as a result of the COVID season that happened in college, and guys stayed later. So we know there are tight ends into day 3. We expect there'll be tight ends into day 3 that are going to be available. The Broncos should be able to drag.
I'm just pointing out one position, though. The inside backer position, you need one. Right tackle, you probably need one. Running back, you definitely need one. But you can split. So let's say they keep their second, third rounder. Okay, let's say they keep pick 96. And you were able to split You're
that.
You're not going to be able to keep that unless you're giving up a future pick. And by a future pick, you're going to have to give up 1 round earlier in order to make the point value chart work. I've been through the math on this. It's just not feasible to move up.
Okay, but it would be...
Unless somebody's giving away a pick.
Okay, But under the conversation of what would you possibly like roll with me here for a second. What would you possibly move up for? What is there? What is there?
You move up, positional value. The only things you move up for are an edge rusher, a quarterback, which they don't need now that they got Russell Wilson, or a pass protector. And to be honest with you, there's going to be good enough pass protectors in the second round that aren't there's no appreciable difference after you get past the top 3 tackles. There's no appreciable difference between what they have and what they would get. You look at the edge rush situation, and who are you going to get? What edge rusher is going to be there? Does Johnson slip into the late 20s, early 30s? I don't think so. I think he's going to go in the teens, and I think that'd be the last of the edge rushers that are going to go that you bring in. And after that, it's corner, and you don't even like the corner that.
Well, I mean, but Sauce Gardner's going to be gone by the top 10. And by the way, I never said all those things you said. I just said I wouldn't take him in the top 10. Doesn't mean that somebody
he was a
won't.
Surefire bust.
That does not at all. But there are cornerbacks that I do like that are going to go in the first round.
There are. But I mean, like Stingley. I mean, like, is that what you're doing? You're gutting your draft to go up and get a corner that's going to be your 5th corner?
You're the one that's been sitting there pounding the table.
I want them to get a
cornerback is one of the most important positions they could possibly draft.
And they should draft one. They should not gut their entire draft to go get one. And so because there are things you have to come away with in this draft. You have to come away with another tight end. You have to come away with a running back. You have to come away with another corner. You have to come away with an inside backer. And you have to come away with probably 2 edge rushers.
Okay, so yeah.
So you're going to need 6 picks in this draft.
So the scenarios here, okay,
and probably right tackle, so 7.
Right. So the scenarios here are,
and they're working centers out.
I'm going to throw out just a handful of players here that the Broncos could potentially view as, boy, I can't believe that guy's there.
Blue chip guys.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. Kyle Hamilton's an example. Just an example, okay? He is one of those uber athlete guys. You pair him with Justin Simmons, and my goodness, what a safety tandem that looks like. And all of a sudden, you definitely upgraded your team, right? There's no denying that. Trevor Penning, for me, is an offensive tackle. I think he has done enough to show me that he could be a right tackle of the future, and you're basically done there. Now again, the Broncos have already done a few things to hedge there, so maybe they don't view that as big a necessity. I'd also throw out one more. George Karlaftis is a guy that at one point in the pre-draft process, people had conversations about him being drafted much higher. And most of the conversations now are about he's a first rounder. However, I feel like you could kind of sort of take him anywhere in the teens into the 20s. Those are some examples of guys that suddenly you might feel as though in your draft room, you say, no, actually, those are dudes we want on our team right now.
But is the production difference in the NFL between Karlaftis and, say, Josh Pascal or Nick Bonito, is the production difference worth enough?
Not in the short term, but Bradley Chubb's on a 1-year deal here. You got to keep that in mind.
I am. But I'm saying you can still get Pascal or Bonito there and not have to move up at all.
But if they don't view Pascal or Bonito in the same tier or category as Karlaftis, okay. We're having a hypothetical on hypothetical. It doesn't matter.
I don't think they view Karlaftis in the same level as some of the other edge rushers that are there that are going to be taking the first 10 to 12 picks.
Yeah. The meat of this draft and the talent that is available in the second and third round makes it prohibitive for me to want to move. Like we're on the same page about this.
Right.
I just, from the side of things of you're in a window, there's a specific player that you view changes the trajectory of your team.
Like if Charles Cross, who's by the way going to go in the top 10, falls to 25, then yeah, I guess I'm making phone calls. If a video of him hitting the bong comes out, ripping hits off the bong comes out. Happy April 20th, everybody.
Yeah, Larry Tuttle.
Right? Larry, yeah. Like if that happens and he falls, then I'm making calls because that's a franchise, a franchise player. But the rest of this,
because the Broncos have done that in the past, right? They Bradley Roby,
Shane Ray,
right? Guys that were expected to go much higher. All of a sudden, something happened right before the draft.
But unless something ridiculous like that happens, I just can't see a scenario in which a player that is appreciably better than what's going to be available if they just let the board fall to them. So that's what I'm saying. Like you have to play the value game. What are you giving up and what are you getting in return?
I think the fun conversation becomes outside of the first round. The first fun conversation becomes, would you consider packaging picks to move up in the second?
Yes.
And then splitting some of your thirds to move back?
Yes.
That I like a lot.
Yes, I would absolutely
target a player in the second that you really like.
1 or 2 players targeted in the second round that you're kind of looking at, and then you're going to bust up your third rounders to kind of move around a little, have a little flexibility, and try to get those back end picks also up into the fourth. So because the meat of this draft is the meat of this draft, like right there, it's Fat Belly in the center, and I think that if you can, George Paton can go against the philosophy that he's had most of his career, and he's been around most of his career in Minnesota, which is that barbell approach. This draft is the draft to have it in the middle, and I think if he can kind of maneuver that a little bit, you can come away with some pretty quality players.
Well, I can't wait to see it go down a week from today. We'll, of course, have coverage, BroncosCountryTonight.com. For Benjamin Allbright, I'm Ryan Edwards. Thanks for watching the show.